Welcome to the Stephen Shields radio show. Today I've got Nick Bolton on. How are you, Nick?
Very well, Stephen. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you. What are you working on acting-wise for yourself?
Quite a few things. Did a little social media piece for a healthcare company this week. Some gastro bands. So it's just a bit of modeling, I guess. Not that I'm a model. And I've recently had a role in a 30-minute short called Mate, which I'm also producing. So we're in the final throes of post-production with that. What else have I done acting-wise recently? Did a little guest slot on Deadly Women, the crime show. So yeah, a few things happening, as well as all my producing and directing things as well.
What inspired you to be an actor, Nick?
What inspired me? I don't think anything inspired me originally. I think it was just more the fun, the enjoyment of it. I started acting when I was about 12. I was a member of the Scouts back in England. We used to do an Eisteddfod. Eisteddfod is a Welsh festival that's a celebration of art and theatre and stuff. And we used to run an Eisteddfod once a year. And I always enjoyed doing that. And then I was always in the school plays. I just did it because I enjoyed it. And I just love being with people. It's the same reason I love sport, team sport. I love being with a group of people, making something happen, and I love that camaraderie and that. It wasn't for artistic reasons or anything like that. Yeah, it was just purely for fun. And then I kind of, when I got to about 18, I went traveling around the world, and so I came to Australia for the first time, and then did uni, and I left acting for about 10 years. And then when I moved back to Australia, I joined Darlow Drama in King's Cross at the theatre did acting lessons as a way of meeting people in Australia, because my circle of friends were all Pommy backpackers basically, and they were all moving back to England, and I wanted to stay. So I did it as an interest, but also as a way again to meet people. And from there, I just kept working at it and got to where I am today.
What was the most scariest part of traveling as a backpacker to Australia for yourself?
Oh Christ, loads. I mean, I'd never been on an aeroplane before. I'm showing my age a bit now, but yeah, 18 years old. It was 5 days before my 19th birthday, and I grew up in the north of England in Sheffield. There's no internet when I did this, and getting on an aeroplane for the first time, I was sat next to a guy, and we got really drunk on the aeroplane, and and I arrived at Singapore at midnight, and I just remember walking into the heat and the humidity, and I'd never seen Asian people before, and the language, and I just felt really lonely and isolated, just like, oh my God, I'm in this strange town at midnight, and I've got to try and find my way to this youth hostel that I'd booked. But I got there, and it was all right. What was scary about traveling? It's just like the unknown, really. So many things went wrong, but so many things went right. I always say it's the best year of my life. It's a bit of a cliche, but I turned into a man. I left as a boy and turned into a man because I had to look after myself for 14 months, and I taught me discipline of saving and cash flow and what you can and can't do with the resources you've got. And of course, it opened my eyes to amazing cultures. As I said, I'd never tasted Asian food growing up in Sheffield, and just taste this amazing food and see these, ancient cultures. To go to Angkor Wat when you're 19 is incredible. In Cambodia. Yeah.
When you arrived in Australia as a backpacker, were they asking where you're going, where you're staying, or they were like, "Oh, welcome to Australia"?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Come on in. It was great. I was fortunate that one of my dad's best mates, a Kiwi guy, lived in Sydney with his family. So Gerard picked me up. It was a Saturday morning or Saturday lunchtime, and I can remember driving. He drove me from the airport to Epping in North Sydney, and we went past the Domain, and the Home Bake Festival was on.
Mm.
And I'm a big music fan. I just looked at that. I went, yeah, I'm going to be all right in this city.
Have you since gone back to Sheffield since arriving?
Yeah. Every time I go back to England, I go there. My mother's ashes are there, so I always try and go back if I can when I'm back in England to be there. And I'm a big Sheffield United football fan, so I usually combine the two in the same trip if I can.
Mm-hmm. And you've been to other countries, have you?
Oh, loads. Traveling's huge for me. I love any sort of travel. I mean, I've just been up to Newcastle with work for 2 days, and we were filming in the hospital, which was good fun. But we stayed at Caves Beach, which is half an hour south of Newcastle, and it's just lovely to be in this little community. I just love traveling and seeing new things and meeting new people. It's a big part of what I am.
Have you ever been broke when traveling?
Oh God, yeah, totally. yeah. I was broke on that first trip when I arrived from Asia to Sydney. I was skint, and luckily that guy Gerald, worked for Unilever, which my dad worked for, and he got me a job in the factory, packing food basically. And so I had to extend my stay in Sydney for another 3 or 4 months to save up the money to carry on my travels around Australia and then America. But then I ran out of money again in LA, and that was the phone call to Dad. And can you bail me out, please, Dad? So I nearly made the whole way around on my own savings, but had to borrow a bit at the end, which is all right.
No, it happens, and that's very scary when you're traveling overseas. Is having the money to look after yourself too.
Totally. And it's more for me. It was like I didn't realize how much money I needed, and so there's loads of things that I couldn't do later on in the trip. So when I got to Cairns, I did the scuba diving, and the bungee jump, and God, it's just so easy to throw all this money away on these amazing things. That scuba diving was a skill that I still scuba dive today. Done over 100 dives. So I'm very glad I've learned, but it's an expensive thing to do. And so I guess at 19, all those things just taught me to evaluate what you can and can't afford, and the value of whether to do it or not. And I'm certainly very glad to invested in learning how to scuba dive, because it's a skill that I've been able to use all around the world ever since.
Mm-hmm. And acting wise, have you ever gone close to Hollywood?
No. No. I've been to LA twice, and I'm very happy to go there as a visitor, but I wouldn't want to live there. It's not my town at all. But I won Best International Actor at Short and Sweet Hollywood last year, so that was lovely. That was good. But yeah, no, I've got no ambition to move to America. If it happens organically, then we'll see. But Christ, I've done a few films here in Australia and a few little TV shows, but nothing major, So let's try and crack Australia first, and then worry about America.
And have you worked with any famous actors?
Yep. Who, in an acting capacity? Oh God, I'm trying to remember who they were now. Who was it in The Killing? That was about 8 or 9 years ago. I've worked with, not as an actor, I've worked with much more famous people as a producer. In 1 month, I filmed David Beckham, Kevin Rudd, and the Pope. That was quite a big month. And I'll tell you a story about Beckham. If I could tell you a story about all three. But with Beckham, it was about a year after he'd done got sent off for England, and he was like public enemy #1. I don't know if you know all this, but he was public enemy #1 in England, because he basically cost us our place in the World Cup by being petulant. And the media and society turned against him because he was the glamour boy, the poster boy with, the model girlfriend and all that sort of stuff, and putting fashion before football, all that stuff. And so on that, he was a Motorola / Optus ambassador, and he was doing an in-store appearance at 10:30 on George Street, and we were we were filming him, and we had to be there at 9:30. And by mistake, his publicist gave me his call sheet for the whole day. And by 10:30, he'd already done about 7 interviews.
Jeez.
So he'd basically woken up at 5:30, gone to the gym, over breakfast, had an interview, had another interview in the car from hotel to first appearance, did the appearance interview, had another interview in the car to the Motorola one, yeah? And he walked in and he came up and he shook us all by the hand, introduced himself. Hi, I'm David. Of course, we knew him. You know, I'm a massive football fan, so I'm trying to hold it together, you know, be professional. And he asked, right, what do you want me to do? Where do you want to go? And he was so professional. And then he just turned it on, the presenting ambassador bit. He was in store for about 10 minutes. And then he said, do you need anything else? Is there anything else I can do? And we were like, no, we're all good. And he, at the end, thanked all the crew and walked out again. So I was in the same room with him for about half an hour. And my God, he taught me a lot then about being on time, treating every job professionally, befriending everyone in there, making sure that we got what we needed. And it was just a masterclass in what media training is, you know.
Yeah, because David Beckham, he was getting his name on his football boots during the World Cup as well. And he'd always have a different set of boots every time he played. I think it was Adidas that sponsored him.
Yeah.
As well. What's David Beckham doing now? Because he went to play in LA he went, I think, to Real Madrid and went in LA. Is he still playing?
He's packed up playing now, but he's now an owner of a new football team called Inter Miami. Mm-hmm. So they launched last year. They've got Gonzalo Higuain as the centre forward. They just appointed Phil Neville, his old Man United teammate, as the manager. So he's obviously doing that. He's still a UNICEF ambassador, and got lots of brands associations to his name. He's made a few documentaries. He made a great doco of him and his mates motorbiking through South America a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And of course, his Victoria's fashion label is doing really well as well. So I don't think they're short of £1 or £2.
Mm. Yeah, and you mentioned you saw the Pope and Kevin Rudd. Tell me about the Pope.
Well, that was an amazing project. We were we had the contract for all content for the Catholic Church of Australia, mm-hmm. and every 3 years the Catholic Church has World Youth Day. Do you know World Youth Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like their Olympics, if you like. It's so a host country holds the World Youth Day banner for 3 years, and in the third year they have a 10-day festival in a city. Prior to that, the cross it travels all the way around that country, and have a program of events. But anyway, it culminates at World Youth Day, and basically the Catholic community from all around the world come to that city for celebrations, etc. So we were filming all of that, and then the church asked us to go to the Vatican, to Rome, to document the transferring of the cross from Australia to, where was it? Was it Spain or Mexico? Might have been Spain. I think it was Spain. It's going back 10 years or so now. So we had an amazing time in Rome for a whole week documenting this. We met Cardinal Pell several times and filmed him. And we were taken to these amazing churches that were like straight out of Dan Brown. You know, the what's the book called? I haven't read it, but
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, Da Vinci Code. That's it. Yeah, and Angels and Demons and all that sort of stuff. It was just mind-bogglingly beautiful. And then we, on the last day, then we were taken into the Vatican the day before the ceremony, and we were shown around the sort of some of the Pope's private quarters and filmed in there, and filmed him there. And then on the last day was the handover in St. Mark's Square, and we that was with 35,000 people, and we filmed that, and it was an amazing week, really good. I'm not religious, I'm not Catholic, but it was a real privilege to be part of their celebration of that week, and just a joy to. I mean, Rome's my favorite city, and it was just amazing to be shown stuff that tourists wouldn't be allowed to see.
What about Kevin Rudd? What was your experience with Kevin Rudd?
Yeah, I've got actually quite a bit of time for him, actually. It was coming up to the election, and so he did all these minister debates online, live streamed through YouTube. It's just when YouTube had started their live streaming, and our previous company was the preferred premium YouTube live streaming partner. So our team were often down in Canberra, and it was great. It's another example of treating people with respect. Kevin got to know all our names. You know, he started calling us Nick and Tim and Dean and Connell. You know, that was good. You know, he was Prime Minister, and look, he was an absolute pro and very helpful. And it was very interesting seeing him talk, his off-screen demeanor and his on-screen demeanor. When he was like, I actually preferred his when he was just speaking from the heart. He spoke beautifully and eloquently. And then when he started reading his script, it was kind of, it just felt like it was someone else's voice, you know. And that's what obviously his advisory team had put the script together, and he had to read those things. And that was an interesting example of why I always prefer speaking from the heart. It's more effective.
What have been your not so great moments as an actor, Nick?
Not so great moments. Forgetting your lines on stage is always horrible. And working your way through that's not very nice. I've never done a role that I wish I hadn't done, because I wouldn't do that. I guess at a more amateur or emerging levels, when you've just got people that are inexperienced and don't have the experience to deal with the stress of when things go wrong, basically, whether this is film or theatre, and not treating everyone with respect, you know. And so it's more about the dynamics of the team that I don't like, which doesn't happen very often. I mean, the more professional levels you get, everyone is exceptionally professional and courteous and on time, and allows everyone, each department, to do their job to the best of their ability. It's usually at the lower end where, the no dickhead policy isn't adhered to, you know, and people are disrespectful and shout and scream and get stressed. Then it's not fun. Having fun is a very big driver for me.
Yeah. What have been your best films that you've played in?
Well, there's lots of things. I mean, probably the thing I'm most proud of is the film The Road to Vagator, because I wrote that, and it was without giving too much away, it's a homage to my mum. And it was a beautiful film to make. It was made with my wife and I. My wife, Jess, is a cinematographer and director. And so we set ourselves the challenge of, could we make a narrative film in the 5 countries we were going to. So our honeymoon was in India, but my dad was ill, and we felt we should go back to support him. So our 5.5-week trip took us from Sydney to 3 nights in Hong Kong, a week in England, 2 nights in Dubai, 3 weeks in India, and then a night in Dubai, and back home to Sydney. So it was just purely a creative challenge. Could 2 people make a narrative-based film in 5 countries, which is thematically and locationally interesting, because most short films are done in a few locations. And it was originally just meant to be a visual document of our honeymoon, but in a narrative format, and obviously a tribute to my mum. And I wrote this script, and we had no idea whether we'd be able to pull it off or not, because it was quite ambitious, and, you know, just 2 people to make a film's a bit much, or not enough, you know, not much. But anyway, we did it, and we got it back, and our editor, James Vass, did an amazing job in sifting through all the stuff, and we stitched it together, and it came out really well, and it just started winning film festivals, and I won a few Best Actor awards. And you know, for something that was just a creative exercise, for it then to actually have a presence, a permanent presence, is lovely. And it's, you know, the production values are okay for what it was, and we shot it on one DSLR and mobile phones and GoPros, but we polished it up really well. And it's a beautiful story, and most people shed a tear at the end, and most people say they reflect on their relationship with their parents. And so that's why I love it when you work on a project that, you know, has a deeply personal effect on people. So that was an amateur thing, but it because it's such a personal story for me, that's probably what I'm most proud of. On stage, one of the things I was really proud of was 2 years ago doing 1984. I mean, that was a pivotal book for me. I read it when I was about 16, and it really helped shape the way I view the world and view media, having worked in media all my life. And the Winston character, of course, is totally iconic. And I was fortunate enough to play that at the Rue Theatre down in Shell Harbour 2 years ago. Community theatre, 200-seater. We had some good houses. And for me, it was a big challenge, because a lot of what Winston thinks about is internal. So trying to express that externally on stage and be physical was hard. But the other main thing for me was I was on stage from the first minute to the last minute. So to be on stage for 2.5 hours was physically exhausting, mentally draining, and emotionally tough, because I don't know if you read the book, but for the last half hour, I'm being tortured, basically. So, you know, I'd come off there and just at night, and I'd be absolutely floored, you know, for 2.5 hours of intense concentration. So I was quite proud of getting through that.
If you had one dream actor you could work with, Nick, who would it be?
Or who would it be to work with? Steve Buscemi is incredible. He's a chameleon. Ewan McGregor is probably the guy I aspire to. He just always seems to have fun, Ewan McGregor, and he's got a great range. Frances McDormand's incredible. There's too many. I think I'd actually probably want to go for someone who's a lot older, actually, to work with, because they would be able to teach me so much. So, you know, God, to be in a dressing room with Ian McKellen or Chris Plummer, who recently died, or, you know, someone like that. Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, you know, they've seen it all. Yeah, someone like that, you know, just not necessarily to work with, but just to chew the fat over a meal, you know, that'd be incredible.
How do you get through the tough times as an actor, especially in 2020 with the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, look, I mean, I generate most of my revenue through my production company, and you know, I have multiple revenue streams. So my wife and I, Jess, we run 10 Alphas, a production company. So we're making lots of TV commercials and corporates. That's how we know each other, as a creative industries business advisor. I work for Creative Plus Business, run by Monica Davidson, and that's beautiful intellectually, because I get to work with lots of wonderful creative people and trying to help them in their business. I sit on the board of Screen Illawarra, so whilst that's not a paid job, it's a stimulating one, trying to build the screen sector down here. So I've got my acting as well, you know, and so I'm quite fortunate now that I have all these jobs that are all around the creative sector. Sometimes I'm acting, sometimes producing, sometimes directing, sometimes advising. I teach as well at AFTRS and the Sydney Film School. So I've just got this really rich and varied life around creativity and art and film. As an actor, yeah, because you know, I've got an agent, which is great, but you know, I'm not reliant on my acting skills to pay the mortgage, and you know, but it's funny, since during COVID, I've you know, it gave you a time to slow down a bit and reflect, and I realized that acting is the thing that I love the most out of it. And so that's why I reached out to try and get an agent, which I did. And, you know, I've in the last year, I've had a renewed love of acting and doing a lot more of it. And certainly something I want to do more of as I get older.
And when we had the pandemic last year, there was a lot of production companies that have shut forever. I know in Melbourne it got hit hard.
Yeah.
Hollywood too, but I think they've just started going back now to film as well. Have you known a lot of actors that have been affected financially?
Oh, everyone, absolutely everyone. Like when that lockdown hit on March the 23rd, I know that because it's the day after my birthday. We had about $500,000 worth of work booked, and by March the 30th, it had all gone, and we had zero work in the pipeline, and it was terrifying. We were fortunate; we had a bit of post-production work to do on a couple of big projects, which kept us going for a month, and then a government client of ours got special dispensation for us to make a few TV commercials, and because Jess and I are married, that kind of helped, from a pandemic perspective. So that certainly helped. But it's common knowledge that the creative sector, and especially the casual worker, just got floored because they weren't get JobKeeper or JobSeeker, and it's hard. So many people I know have had to go and get other non-acting jobs to get through it. But you've also got to give Morrison and the government credit, because they did a much better job of dealing with the pandemic than many other countries overseas, including England and America. Their governments did an appalling job. And, we're pretty much back to normal now. So what was it, 9 months, really? And look, there's so much work now in Sydney and Queensland in particular. I mean, the Screen Queensland are doing an amazing job in stimulating the economy there. And you can't get into Fox Studios now. The studios are all booked, with the Marvel films. What's it called? I can't remember. So there's loads of work here now, like it's really, everyone's working full time again. So it's really good.
Mm. Yeah, it was. Did you at one stage have to go on the JobKeeper yourself?
I am on the JobKeeper. Yeah.
That,
so we've lost about 45% of our revenue over that period of time. So Jess and I have been on JobKeeper. Yeah.
That runs out next month. Is that
end of March?
Yeah. After when that runs out, is that it, or do you have to then go find your own work?
Yeah, totally. And I'm quite comfortable with that, because I say we're getting close to that 30% threshold now, and the work's returning. So I actually think it's a good for me. I mean, there's a lot of other less fortunate people, but for us, I'm cool with that. I feel supported by the government, and I'm very grateful for it. And it can't carry on forever, and nor should it. I mean, we're pretty much on top of COVID now, and the processes and protocols are in place to stop more cases happening. There's the odd one here and there, but that's about it, really. And everyone's just going. When you do get a case, it's shut down properly, very quickly, and eradicated. So, I ain't got a problem with them stopping it end of March. I think it's the right thing to do. They've got to rebuild the economy. They're in a lot of debt, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some tax increases, and I've got no problem with that either, because they've supported us, and it's time for the population to support the government a bit now.
Have you known anyone who's had the coronavirus, Nick?
I've not known anyone, but I've known friends of friends, and indeed people who've died. Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty bad. I was speaking to a woman in the UK. They've gone into a third lockdown over in the UK.
Yeah, well, my family are there, and my dad is in a retirement home, and he's hardly been outside for 3 months. He's 81 years old, and he's incredibly stoic, and I'm amazed at his positive outlook. But my God, he must be bored. My brothers haven't seen him because they're not allowed to. There's only one. It's only his care worker who's the approved bubble person. So only one person's allowed in to see him because he's high risk. He's had the vaccine as well. He's had it twice. So that's a relief.
If I may ask, what's your father think of the vaccine?
Oh, it's just no brainer. He's like, he's so glad he got it straight away. Yeah.
Because there's people that are skeptical to take a fresh batch. Like myself, I'd probably wait till they improve it a bit. Are you the same, or would you go and get it ASAP?
Well, I'm needle phobic, so any excuse not to take an injection, I will avoid. I absolutely don't believe with the controversy theory. I think that's ridiculous. I have a little concern that it was rushed through, but weighing the, and look, I'm not a scientist or a medical. I've got very little knowledge of it, but to me, the pain of not rushing it through would be greater than what the side effects might be. So, you know, a 75% chance of it saving my dad's life and I get to see him again. Yeah, I'll take that. I may never see him again. You know, it's probably the same. 2024 is the first time I fly to England. You know, I may never see my dad again. You know, and so if he can have the vaccine and it helps him improve his chances of living longer, yeah, I'm cool with that. But I don't have any underlying conditions. There's many more people that need to have the vaccine before I do. All right. So I'd much rather them get it. If my work meant I had to travel overseas, then of course I would get it. But being a wimp when it comes to needles, I'll put it off for as long as possible. That's the only reason.
Because there is talks the government's gonna, I think, make a green card, and apparently if you don't take it, they won't let you travel overseas. That could be a law in the future. You know, it's a bit scary, to be honest with you.
Not really. I mean, like when I went traveling around the world, I had to get yellow fever and malaria vaccines, or I wouldn't be allowed into those countries. It's exactly the same. I'm glad they're doing it. It's good. I don't want to be going to lockdown again. So
I hope.
It's your choice to.
I hope it does work. That's my concern about it.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course there is that risk, but I don't know what the risks might be. I've not read enough of it. So, but yeah, if you're getting 70 or 90% efficacy, stop people dying, that's pretty good to me.
Nick, it was a fantastic show with you today. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, Nick Bolton, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn are the ones I use the most. Facebook's probably the biggest one. Check out 10alphas.com.au, TENALPHAS. People in the Illawarra and Wollongong, check out Screen Illawarra. For creatives interested in getting free business advice, check out creativeplusbusiness.com.au, and indeed Business Connect, the government website as well. And yeah, love to hear from you.